Jeff,
Yeah.
before we got on, we were talking about your call on Uber, and this morning it's looking like a good one.
It was a good one,
Did you get through the numbers?
Yeah, I did, and they looked really good. And of course, I'm bitter because I'm only up 6%, and that feels like dog chow compared to freaking AMD, right? I mean, it's just like, hey, well, my consumer name's up 10% since we talked about it a week ago. What an idiot. But this was good. What Uber needed to do is change the narrative of we're just Uber, right? And we're kind of waiting for autonomous to kill us, and they're not going to have a place in that. They're finally there's been able to really start to change the story that they're telling. And when you get down to it, that makes a lot of sense. You've got this kind of captive audience of people, everyone gets off the plane and they get on their Uber app. Well, start selling them more stuff than just a ride is one thing to do. And the other thing to do is to get a taste of the autonomous cars. And a third thing to do is to have a company like Waymo anyway realize that Uber over the years has become really good at being that app, which is a skill that you can't vibe code your way into it. It's not quite as easy as people really think to either build an autonomous car. Tesla still struggles with it, or to come up with a software that's going to be as convenient and replace that sort of Uber app. And so Uber for everything makes a lot of sense. My wife's going to the airport tomorrow. Setting up rides in advance. They were talking about it on the call. That's become a much better business. That should kill. It's a smaller market than taxis were, but Uber annihilated taxis. They should be killing the black car service as well. Anything that you order, it's just making that a reliable service that you call a day in advance and you know for sure it's going to be there because they don't book the call later. That's a market that's just sitting there waiting for Uber to take it.
Does Waymo license this thing, Jeff? You think?
Yes, they do. They're kind of they're not diving whole hog into it, but when you see things like those, you'll see a occasional kind of meme-ish videos of stampedes of Waymos. Just 8 of them will be lined up. We had the little baby LA riots a few months ago. And they called a bunch of Waymos, then destroyed them. That doesn't happen to Ubers. The Uber drivers won't go there. Uber's better at dispatching these things and figuring out what's real, what's not. It's a thing that you have to do. You can't just make the call. Right. You're not done then. It's clearly the wave of the future, but it's Uber again just had to change the narrative from what happens to all the Uber drivers after you go autonomous. It's kind of Uber's problem, but kind of we're in the business of really just helping people book things and make their lives more convenient through our app and through there's demand for these goods and services associated with people kind of traveling anywhere or ordering food or ordering delivery for a lot of different stuff, and we're really good at fulfilling it. That's our business. That's what we do, and it's a good business and it generates a nice amount of cash.
What about the flying taxis?
I'm not that worried about the flying taxis just yet. I'm not worried about it. Airspace is a problem. I don't know where you guys live. We've got power lines and neighbors and dogs and all kinds of things that are impacted by freaking drones flying around dropping stuff on people. So we'll see. Maybe the flying taxis will work. I actually flew with them when they had a pilot a few years ago. It seemed cool then. Seems cool now. I'm not sure day to day how much
execution
of a real thing
part
that is.
I'm not so sure about.
Well, yes, I mean, you still have to go to the dispatch, which is a big problem. We're ways away from Joby sending a helicopter to right outside my house or office building. There's still some logistic issues with flying a helicopter into a street.
Hey Jeff, this chart looks more like DoorDash than it does, the other, I guess, Tesla maybe. Did they in this call? Did they distance themselves from the DoorDash negative sentiment and narrative, and thus the stock gets to act a little better?
That is kind of why they're acting a little better now. The caveat here is they can't report every day, and so tomorrow we'll be back to Tesla's going to go autonomous and it's going to steal all our business and everything else. DoorDash is much less ambitious in scope, much less, it's worse at executing than Uber is. And I think that is some separation, but you're right. The Uber chart is not broken out at all. I would love to see it kind of closer to 100. I'm long primarily calls out to June of next year. So I've got over 14 months for it to get to the 100 area. So to me and my way of thinking, Bakes, that looks like it's forming a base, but I'm biased by the fact that I'm really incented for that to be forming a base. So
Well,
you know,
and the volume is bolstering that view today for the
right.
first
I'm
time
getting a
in a
nice
while.
volume. I'm getting a nice move up. I'm getting a, you know, if semis weren't up 35% and I wasn't falling behind, you know, it's John Q public in terms of my portfolio, I'd be much happier than I am already, you know, but it was a nice call. They again, you know, there's fundamentals, there's the financials, and you know, those two are kind of overlapping, but there's also the narrative. Never underestimate the power of the narrative.
Big
For a
time.
while, Uber didn't really get it. DoorDash is still kind of stuck and mired, whatever they want to be. There's a little whiff of Ryan Cohn, you know, wanting to turn GameStop into a competitor for Amazon. It's like, you know, me having a plan to turn my dog into a horse. It's a nice idea, you know. Boy, it'd be cool if my dog could be a horse, but you know, it's not a thing you can actually invest in. So, you know, it's we'll see. Uber's a lot further down the path. They've got deals with Expedia. They've got, you know, it'll remains to be seen how much kind of profit they're going to take on the front end of that. But once you get that captive audience, it's up to Uber now to kind of just put a steel grip around the market penetration that they have as just the go-to place where you open your app when you get to the airport and you get yourself a car. Become that only for hotels, only for food delivery. Everything else, DoorDash is kind of just the food delivery part of it so far, anyway.
Yep. All right, we got I think we got retail earnings. You guys still a couple weeks away from retail earnings, Jeff, with I think Home Depot usually leads the way, and then Target, Walmart.
Home Depot should be a
immediately
mess.
thereafter.
Walmart will be fine. You know, it's going to be the retail part of Amazon was actually really strong. Consumers should be doing a lot of stuff. What they seem to be doing is not really changing their habits all that much. Now, it's, you know, then again, when you close Spirit Airlines, the nation's low price provider of flying, that's certainly evidence that they're changing some of their behaviors, or at least that business model has changed, you know, to the point that you can't make any money. When you raise gas prices out here, starting to see a 7 handle in California, which that'll raise your eyebrows a little bit.
Hi, I'm David Maris. If you like what you just heard, we've tracked every single pick we make on the show, every ticker, every thesis, every entry price, over 1,100 picks and counting. We put it together in a free report with our top 10 performers, the reasoning behind each one, and a preview of our full dashboard. If you want access, the link is in the description.